One of the biggest mistakes I see when people present data, they act like a news reporter. They typically just read the numbers where you say your engagement went up 4% and the survey average was 3.8 out of 5. But numbers aren't the story. Strategy starts when you go beyond what happened and ask why it matters and what to do next. That's where the framework what, so what, now what comes in. Let's start with the first piece, the what. This is your data, the facts, the news reporting that typically goes, and what actually happened. For example, you could say that website traffic increased by 20%. That's the observation. It's important, but by itself, it's just reporting. And if you stop here, you're giving information and not insight. And so it's important to show what you're talking about. The second step is the so what. It's kind of basically asking, why does this matter, and what does the data tell us about behavior, performance, or decisions, or whatever it is that you're trying to answer for your business problem. Using that same example where website traffic is up by 20%, the so what might be that you launch a new campaign and perhaps it's seasonal and you see an increase in traffic, or perhaps engagement went up because you're testing out some new ideas, but conversions didn't happen. So you might want to do a bit of investigating. This is where context lives. It's what separates a data analyst from a strategist. Next, you have the now what. This is where data becomes strategy. You want to make sure that you ask yourself what action should be taken based on the insight. You know what you're talking about, you know what the insight is telling you, but what should you do after knowing those two things? That is the third piece of the framework. For example, with the same one, if website traffic went up 20% but conversions stay flat, maybe you might need a better landing page message or a much more clear call to action. That's the now what. It turns data into a decision. And typically in corporate culture, it's kind of what we call managing up as well. You don't want to present your manager with all these problems, but instead to look at things and come up with the solutions and present those solutions. I've worked with clients who have dashboards full of data but no direction. And the reason why this framework matters is because the problem isn't not enough data, but instead not being able to connect the dots. Sometimes you have to triangulate data, and having the framework of what, so what, now what really forces you to slow down, interpret, and guide the action. It's also helpful in determining on what's most important instead of trying to bounce around multiple topics. It's not about sounding smart, it's about being useful. So the next time you're presenting numbers, don't just say what happened. Instead, tell the story behind it and what comes next. What solution are you proposing to bring? Because data doesn't drive decisions, clarity does. If you want more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and stay around.